private, and I can't wait to hear you tell it on the video of how you came to Sai Baba. Let's just begin.
Okay. In the early 90s, I was a college student living in Oregon, and I became very, very, very sick. I ended up in the hospital in liver and kidney failure. I was on dialysis. At some point, I got so sick that they moved me to the ICU, and they were looking for a transplant donor. During that time in my life, I had no faith in any kind of God. In fact, I was vehemently against any sort of religion. And I was in the hospital for a long time, on and off, and I hadn't told my family, but my friends there knew. I was not really going to school anymore. I'd sort of dropped out for a semester, and a number of friends had come to me and talked to me in sort of spiritual ways that I really, really resented, and made me very angry because, what is a dying person going to do? Suddenly turn to God and become very spiritual and then die with a smile on their face. So I didn't like that idea very much. But one night, my health had really deteriorated, so much so that the doctor said, it's time to start calling your family and making arrangements. Because we haven't found a donor, and
so you thought you were dying?
I thought I was dying. A friend of mine, a good friend, brought someone with him to the hospital one night. That guy talked to me for a long time. And what I remember of his words, what I remember about him, is that he had this deep, incredible spiritual energy that was so soothing and so beautiful and also magical. I felt like when he was there, anything could happen. And just as he was getting ready to leave, the nurses had been trying to push him out for hours, he looked at the clock and he said, "It's 11:11 at night. That's an angel number, and it means something very magical is about to happen for you." And he said, "I want to leave you with these words. There is a kind and loving and benevolent force in the universe, whether you believe it or not. I believe it, so trust me. And one day, maybe very soon, you will need to ask for help. And I want you to know that that loving force, if you ask it for help, will reach back and help you." And with that, he left. And I laid in the bed for some time, contemplating his words, and eventually I fell asleep. And the next thing I remember is that it was, I woke up and I saw the clock, and it was 4:44. There was a digital clock in the room, and I could see the time, 4:44, and I thought, oh, that must be an angel number too, because he said 11:11 was an angel number, and whatever that means, it didn't mean anything to me at the time, but I suddenly felt that sense of magic that he had left me with, and I realized that I woke up because I was ice cold. I was freezing. I was shivering. So I tried to reach for the blankets in the bed, but I couldn't move. And I got a little scared. Why couldn't I move? I must be, literally stiff from the cold. So I tried to reach for the buzzer, for the nurse, which was by my left hand. And I realized I couldn't move my left hand. And I got really scared, and I tried to struggle, and I couldn't move an inch. And it was at that moment I suddenly realized that I was floating, looking down at my body. And I was overcome by the most incredible feeling of peace. And I thought to myself, oh, this is it. You're dying. And for a minute, I just sort of floated there, feeling that peace that I'd never felt in my life. My whole life had been a struggle, an effort. And suddenly I felt this peace. And the words of that guy came back to me. There is a kind and loving and benevolent force in the universe, and if you reach out for help, it will reach back to you and help you. And I thought about those words for a second, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And I prayed a little prayer, floating there in the hospital room above my dying body, and I said, God, I know you're not really there, but just in case you can hear me, I need help, and now would be a good time for you to come. And I had an amazing experience that I'll try to describe. The sky above me opened up, and this amazing blue, really cobalt blue light came down. And in that light there was a form. And he said, I am the blue angel, and I've been sent to take you to God. And he lifted me, he took hold of me somehow and lifted me up and up and up and up forever, forever. It took so long. And finally we broke through some kind of barrier, and I was in a place of just pure light and pure peace and complete silence. And I suddenly realized that I was literally standing at the feet of a being so immense that I could only see the big toe. And it was just this amazing column of light, so huge, that I could see through it, but it was also solid. It was just light. And that being spoke to me. And I can't quite repeat what he said. Maybe it wasn't even exactly words, but he communicated to me, and he somehow lifted me up, and together we went flying around the universe. And he explained to me the creation of the universe, the origin of life, the reason I had incarnated in that body. He said, among other things, that the spirit that was in my body had just died, had just left the body, and that I was a new spirit that would be put back into the body so that I could have a life on the earth. That I needed to come back and that one needed to go, and he was going to use the same body for a second person, second spirit. And so I think literally today I'm not that person who died. I am a different spirit, but in the same body with the same mind, the same memories, the same family. And so what happened is we traveled around the universe, it felt like for hundreds of years. But I woke up in the hospital bed in the morning with the doctor pinching my arm and saying, "What's happened to you? What's happened?" Because I had gone to sleep completely yellow, almost green, and my eyes were brown color. They're now very white. And he said, "What's happened? You look amazing." And I suddenly realized I felt amazing. And all of the memories of that experience, that white light experience, came back to me. And he said, "We've got to do some tests and find out what's going on." And by that...
What's wrong here?
Yeah, exactly. By that evening, the test had come back, and he said, "I don't know what's going on, but it looks like all of your liver and kidney functions are returning to normal." Have we lost the audio?
No, where's the microphone?
It's inside.
Okay.
It's under the shirt.
Fine. Yeah, go ahead.
You have good sound?
Yeah.
Okay. He said, everything's returning to normal, and you know, if you look this good tomorrow morning, I'm going to let you go home and you'll just come back for tests frequently. And sure enough, the next morning they released me from the hospital. And one of the things that God had said to me in that vision was, "Wait for me every day at noon and I will come to you." And I did. Every day at noon I waited in my apartment, sitting on the sofa, and every day at noon the wall of the apartment would turn to light, and that form would walk through. The same form I had seen high up in heaven, whatever heaven is, had come into my apartment, and every day at noon he would come and again would pick me up, and we would go traveling, flying through, I don't know what, through space and time, or it was an inner journey, I don't know what it was. And that lasted for about a month. And at the end of the month, suddenly there was silence. There was no more God. There was no more visitation, daily visitation.